I walked into my parents' dining room expecting pot roast and small talk. Instead, I got an ambush. My mother's eyes were sharp. My father's jaw set in that stubborn way I knew too well. Brittany sat across from me, that familiar smirk playing at her lips. Before I could even sit down completely, my mother's voice cut through the air like a knife. They needed me to pay for Brittany's wedding. $45,000. When I said no, they screamed that it was my duty, my obligation as the successful older daughter. If I refused, I should disappear from their lives forever. Brittany just smiled wider. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor, and said with perfect calm, "You have 24 hours to leave." The room went silent. Nobody understood what I meant yet. Let me back up and explain how I got here, sitting at this table with 3 people who were supposed to love me but instead saw me as an ATM machine. My name is Vicky, I'm 28 years old, and am a software engineer at a tech company in Seattle. I make good money now, but it wasn't always this way. I worked 3 jobs through college while taking a full course load. I served coffee at 6 in the morning, attended classes until 3, tutored high school kids until 6, then worked the closing shift at a bookstore until 11 at night. I slept maybe 5 hours on a good night. I graduated with honors and $60,000 in student loan debt. Brittany, my younger sister by 3 years, had a very different experience. She went to the same state university I did, but our parents paid for everything. Her tuition, her dorm, her meal plan, her sorority dues, even her spring break trips. She graduated with a degree in communications and 0 debt. She also graduated with 0 job offers because she spent more time at parties than building any actual skills. When I brought up this disparity once, my mother told me I was naturally more independent and didn't need help the way Brittany did. My father said I should be proud to be self-sufficient. What they meant was that I was the strong one who could handle suffering, and Brittany was the precious one who deserved comfort. 6 months ago, my parents called me in a panic. They were facing foreclosure on their house. They'd refinanced it twice to pay for various things, including Brittany's car and their own lifestyle upgrades they couldn't afford. They had 60 days before the bank took everything. I had some money saved, and I'd just gotten a significant raise. Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I decided to help them. I bought the house from them for $200,000. It was worth about $230,000, so I gave them a fair price. The deal was that they could continue living there rent-free, and when they were ready to downsize, we'd figure something out. They cried and thanked me and promised this was the last time they'd ever ask me for money. We even had papers drawn up. Everything was legal and official. I owned the house, and they were essentially my guests. But here's what they didn't know. For the past year, I'd been recording our conversations. Not every single one, but the important ones about money and family obligations. I started doing it after Brittany asked me to pay her credit card bill and my parents backed her up, saying it was just what siblings do. I paid it. It was $3,000. Then 2 months later, they asked me to cover their property taxes. Another $4,000. Then my father's car repair. $2,500. Then my mother's dental work that insurance didn't cover. $6,000. It never stopped. 3 months ago, I paid off their credit card debt after my mother called me sobbing, saying they couldn't afford groceries. That was $20,000. When I transferred the money, I made them promise on speakerphone that this was absolutely the last time. My father swore on his mother's grave. My mother promised she'd never ask again. I recorded every word. Now, standing in this dining room with them, demanding $45,000 more, I pulled out my phone. "Before we continue this conversation," I said quietly, "I want you to listen to something." I pressed play. My father's voice came through the speaker, tinny but clear. "Vicky, I swear on my mother's grave, we will never ask you for another dollar. You've done so much for us. We're going to get our finances together. This is the last time." My mother's voice followed. "Never again, sweetie. We promise. You've been so generous, and we've taken advantage. We're going to do better." The date stamp on the recording was clear, 3 months and 4 days ago. The color drained from my father's face. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Brittany's smirk finally disappeared. "You recorded us," my father said, his voice barely a whisper. "I did," I replied, "and I have 11 more recordings just like it. Promises you've made and broken, boundaries you've crossed, manipulation you've used. My mother tried to recover. That's illegal. You can't record people without their permission. Actually, Mom, Washington is a two-party consent state, but we're sitting in Idaho right now. Idaho is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's perfectly legal. I know because I checked with a lawyer before I started doing it. The room felt like all the oxygen had been sucked out of it. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Here is what else you don't know, I continued. This house we're sitting in? I own it. I bought it from you 6 months ago when you were facing foreclosure. I have the deed. I have the title. My name is on everything. You are living here because I allow it. Brittany's face went from pale to red. So what? You're going to kick Mom and Dad out onto the street? What kind of monster are you? I looked at my baby sister, the golden child who'd never been told no in her entire life. We'll get to that. But first, let's talk about your wedding. Brittany's explosion was spectacular. She shot up from her chair so fast it fell backward and clattered against the floor. You are so jealous of me. You've always been jealous. I'm getting married. I'm in love. I'm going to have a beautiful wedding. And you can't stand it because nobody wants you. The words were designed to hurt, and once upon a time, they would have. But I'd spent the last year in therapy, working through exactly this kind of manipulation. I stayed calm. Tell me about the wedding plans, I said. Why? So you can judge me more. Brittany crossed her arms. Humor me. She huffed but couldn't resist talking about herself. Fine. We've booked the Riverside estate for next June. 200 guests. We're having a live band, a 7-course meal, premium open bar, and a dessert station in addition to the wedding cake. My dress is custom designed and costs $8,000 alone. Derek wants a honeymoon in Bora Bora for 2 weeks. We've already sent save the dates to everyone. I did quick math in my head. The Riverside estate alone cost at least $20,000 to book. And how much have you put down in deposits? Why does that matter? Brittany, how much? She looked at our parents, then back at me. $15,000 so far. But we need the rest within 3 months, or we lose everything. And where did the $15,000 come from? Silence. Brittany, Mom and Dad's credit cards, she mumbled. I turned to my parents. Credit cards that are already maxed out, I assume. My father found his voice. We thought you'd help. We always help family. That's what people do. Did you ask me before putting $15,000 on credit cards you can't pay off? We didn't think we had to ask, my mother said. Your family. Family helps each other. Family, I repeated. Let's talk about family. Brittany, tell me about Derek. Her face went defensive immediately. What about him? How long have you known him? 10 months. Why? Where did you meet? At a bar. Vicky, what does this have to do with anything? I pulled out my phone again and opened a folder ID labeled Derek Information. I'd paid $200 for a background check. Money well spent. Derek Patterson, age 32, has been engaged twice before. First engagement ended when his fiancée discovered Head taken out credit cards in her name. Second engagement ended when she caught him cheating. He currently has $30,000 in gambling debt, primarily from online poker and sports betting. Has been fired from 3 jobs in the past 5 years for showing up drunk. He currently works part-time as a bartender and lives in a studio apartment that's 2 months behind on rent. Brittany's face went through several color changes. You're lying. You're making this up because you're a jealous, bitter woman who can't stand to see me happy. I have the background check right here. I can send it to you. You had no right to investigate my fiancé. You're asking me for $45,000. I have every right to know who's benefiting from my money. My mother jumped in, so he's had some struggles. Everyone deserves a second chance. Love conquers all. You wouldn't understand that, Vicky. You've always been so cold. Before I could respond, we heard the front door open. Heavy footsteps stumbled down the hallway. Derek appeared in the doorway, clearly drunk, holding a bottle in a paper bag. Hey, babe, he slurred at Brittany. Thought I'd surprise you. Your mom said you were having family dinner. He noticed me and his face broke into a sloppy grin. Hey, it's the rich sister. Brittany talks about you all the time. Says you're loaded. Brittany stood up quickly. Derek, maybe you should go home. You've been drinking. Just a little celebration, babe. Soon we're gonna be married and living good. No more of this paycheck to paycheck crap. Your family's gonna take care of us, right? He laughed and took another drink. Gonna have a rich wife. Won't even need to work anymore. The silence in the room was deafening. Brittany's face was bright red. Derek, you're drunk. You don't know what you're saying. Sure I do. Your parents told me all about how your sister's gonna pay for everything. Wedding, honeymoon, everything. Said she's got money to spare. He turned his bleary eyes on me. You know what your problem is? You're too uptight. Too serious. If you smiled more, maybe some guy would want you. But I guess it's good you're single. More money for family. Right. He laughed at his own joke. Nobody else did. If Brittany's family won't come through, though, we can always just go to the courthouse, he continued. Don't need a fancy wedding. Just need that paper that says we're married, you know? Then it's all legal. All shared money and stuff. Brittany looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Derek, please leave. Now. What? I'm just being honest. That's what you always say you want, right? Honesty. He stumbled toward the table. Hey, when's dinner? I'm starving. My father stood up. Son, I think you should go sleep it off. I'm not your son. Not yet, anyway. But soon. Derek winked. I stood up and walked to the front door, opening it wide. Derek, you need to leave. Now. He looked at me with unfocused eyes. You gonna make me? If I have to, yes. Something in my voice must have gotten through even his drunken haze. He shrugged, took another drink, and stumbled toward the door. Whatever. This family's too uptight anyway. Babe, text me later. He walked out into the night, nearly tripping over the front steps. I closed the door and turned back to the dining room. Brittany was crying. My mother looked shocked, and my father seemed to have aged 10 years in 10 minutes. That's who you want me to give $45,000 to? I asked quietly. That's the family investment you're demanding I make. Brittany wiped her eyes. Hess just stressed about money. Hess not usually like that. Brittany, Hess exactly like that. That's who he is. You don't know him. You don't know us. He loves me. He loves your family's money. Or what he thinks is your family's money. You're wrong. She was screaming now. You're wrong, and you're cruel, and I hate you. Mom, Dad, tell her she's wrong. But our parents said nothing. For the first time, I think they were actually seeing the situation clearly. It didn't last long. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her voice taking on that soft, wounded tone she used when she wanted sympathy. Vicky, honey, I know you're upset, but you have to understand, we're only thinking about what's best for everyone. You've always been so strong, so capable. You don't need help the way Brittany does. She's more sensitive, more delicate. She's 25 years old, Mom. She's not delicate. She's enabled. That's a cruel thing to say about your sister, my father interjected. We raised you better than that. I almost laughed. Did you? Because from where I'm standing, you raised me to be a workhorse, and you raised Brittany to be a princess. You taught me that my value was in what I could provide, and you taught her that her value was in simply existing. That's not fair, my mother said, her voice cracking. You were always so independent. You pushed us away. You moved across the country for college when you could have stayed local. You rarely came home for holidays. You built a life that didn't include us. I moved across the country because I got a full scholarship to a good school. I rarely came home because I was working 3 jobs to survive. And I built a life that didn't include you because every time I was around you, I felt like I was never enough. Now you're just being dramatic, my father said. We always loved you. Love isn't just a feeling, Dad. It's action. It's showing up. It's being fair. My mother stood up, her chair scraping harshly. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about fair. Do you know how hard it's been for us? Your father's company downsized. My health hasn't been good. Brittany needed support after college because the job market is terrible. And you got lucky with your tech job and your big salary, and you act like you did it all alone. I did do it alone. You gave me nothing. We gave you life. We gave you a home. We fed you and clothed you. That's called being a parent. That's the baseline. Not something I owe you eternal debt for. The conversation was spiraling, and I could feel us getting away from the point. I needed to bring it back. I took a breath and said, Let me ask you something. Where's the $15,000 Grandma left me in her will? The change in the room was instant. My mother sat back down hard. My father's face went pale. Brittany looked confused. What are you talking about? Brittany asked. I kept my eyes on my parents. When Grandma died 2 years ago, she left me $15,000 in her will. She left it specifically to me because she knew Id struggled financially. She wanted me to have something for myself. Mom, Dad, you told me you'd invest it for me. You said you'd put it in a high-yield savings account until I decided what to do with it. So we'll ask again. Where is it? My mother's hands were shaking. We did invest it. Show me the account statements. We don't have to show you anything, my father blustered. You're being disrespectful. I'll take that as confirmation that there are no account statements. Because there's no account, is there? Silence. I contacted the estate lawyer last month. I continued, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. I asked for copies of all the documentation from Grandma's will. I wanted to see the investment paperwork, the account information, all of it. Do you know what he told me? More silence. He told me that you signed paperwork claiming to be me. You forged my signature on the estate documents. You took the money and deposited it into your personal checking account. That was 2 years ago. The lawyer kept copies of everything. Brittany gasped. Mom? Dad? Is that true? My mother started crying in earnest now. We were going to pay you back. We had expenses. Your father's car died, and we needed the transmission fixed on mine. The roof was leaking. We had bills. You had expenses, so you stole from me. We didn't steal, my father shouted. We're your parents. What's ours is yours, and what's yours is ours. That's how family works. No, Dad, that's how theft works. You forged my signature. You took money that was legally left to me. That's fraud. That's a crime. You wouldn't, my mother whispered. You wouldn't report your own parents. I contacted the lawyer because I wanted to know the truth. I didn't know you'd stolen from me until he told me. Want to know what else he told me? I pulled out my phone again and opened an email. He told me that you came into his office 3 months after Grandma died. You asked him if there was any way to contest the will, to get more of the estate for yourselves. When he said no, that Grandma's will was airtight and Shed specifically left detailed instructions about how everything was to be distributed, you got angry. You accused him of turning Grandma against you. You told him that I didn't deserve anything because Id abandoned the family. My voice was shaking now despite my best efforts. The lawyer kept notes of that conversation. He kept them because he found your behavior concerning. He was worried you might try something. And you did. So what? Brittany said suddenly. So they took some money that Grandma left you. You make good money anyway. You didn't need it. We needed it more. I turned to look at my sister. Really look at her. She genuinely believed what she was saying. You ungrateful child! After everything we did for you, name one thing. I challenged. Name one thing you did for me that you didn't also do for Brittany. Name one sacrifice you made for me. Name one time you chose me. He couldn't. Neither could my mother. The silence stretched between us like a canyon. Brittany stood up, her face red and blotchy from crying. Fine. You want to be selfish? Be selfish. But don't expect us to be part of your life anymore. You're choosing money over family. No, I said calmly. I'm choosing myself. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. And I'm choosing honesty and boundaries over manipulation and exploitation. I looked at my watch, a silver watch my grandmother had given me for my college graduation. It's been about 45 minutes since I gave you the 24-hour deadline. That means you have 23 hours and 15 minutes left. For what? My mother asked, her voice small. To leave. My father's face turned from pale to bright red in an instant. Leave? Leave where? This is our home. No. I said, my voice steady and calm in a way that surprised even me. This is my home. I own it. I have the deed, the title, the mortgage in my name. You are not tenants. You don't pay rent. You have no lease. You are guests in my house, and I'm asking you to leave. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. You can't do this. You can't just throw us out onto the street. I can. Actually, I consulted with a real estate lawyer 3 weeks ago. Since you're not legal tenants, since there's no lease and no rent payments, I can evict you with proper notice. In Idaho, for non-tenants, that notice period is 24 hours. I'm being generous by making it a full day instead of calling the police right now. You consulted with a lawyer 3 weeks ago, my father said slowly. You've been planning this. I've been preparing for the possibility that things would go exactly the way they went tonight. I knew you'd ask for more money. I knew it would be for Brittany's wedding. I knew you'd try to manipulate me into saying yes, so I got my affairs in order. Brittany was pacing now, her hands pulling at her hair. Where are they supposed to go? They don't have money for a hotel or an apartment. That's not my problem anymore. You all made it very clear that my money is yours to do with as you please, so use it. Oh, wait, you already spent it all. My mother was full on sobbing now, her head in her hands. My father looked like he wanted to hit something. Brittany looked between them and me, her face twisted with anger and confusion. I walked to the living room and picked up my laptop bag. I'd brought my computer to show them some work photos, back when I thought this was going to be a normal family dinner. Now I had a different use for it. I set the laptop on the dining room table and opened it. I pulled up a document I'd created and spent the last week refining. It was a detailed, chronological account of everything my family had done to me financially over the past 5 years. Every request for money, every guilt trip, every broken promise. I had dates, amounts, screenshots of text messages, and bank statements showing the transfers. I also had the background check on Derek. I had copies of the forged documents from Grandma's estate. I had recordings of promises my parents had made and broken. I had everything. What is that? My father asked. This is a social media post I've written but not published. It tells the whole story, every detail, everything you've done. My mother's head snapped up. You wouldn't dare. I would. But more importantly, look at who I'm planning to tag. I turned the laptop so they could see the screen. I'd created a list of tags. Brittany's 200 wedding guests. Every single one of them. I had their names from the Save the Dates shed shown me proudly last month. I also had tagged our extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents on both sides. I'd tagged their church community, including the pastor who was supposed to officiate the wedding. But the real kickers were at the end of the list. My father's boss and coworkers. My mother's book club friends. The ones she spent hours with every week maintaining the image of the perfect family. And Derek's parents, Charles and Patricia Patterson, who I'd found through a simple online search. Derek's parents don't know about his gambling debt or his previous engagements, I said quietly. They think he's a successful bartender saving up to start his own business. They're old money from Portland. They've already sent Brittany's parents a very expensive crystal vase as an engagement gift. They're planning to help fund the wedding themselves because they think Brittany comes from a nice, stable, middle-class family. Brittany's face went from red to white. How do you know all this? Derek talks when he drinks, and he drinks a lot. He told me all about his parents last Thanksgiving when he showed up drunk to our family dinner. Remember that? You said he was just nervous about meeting everyone. But he told me everything. About how his parents have money and standards. About how he's been lying to them for years. About how this marriage is his ticket to respectability. You're lying, Brittany whispered, but there was no conviction in her voice. Am I? Call him right now. Ask him about his parents' expectations. Ask him about the trust fund has been telling his poker buddies he'll get access to once is married into a good family. Ask him why he proposed to you 2 weeks after learning that your parents owned a house. Brittany pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She stepped out of the room, and we could hear her voice in the hallway, high and frantic. Derek? Derek, I need you to tell me something. Do your parents have money? Derek, don't lie to me. Do they? There was a long pause. Then we heard Brittany start to cry. She came back into the dining room, her face streaked with mascara. He hung up on me. My mother reached for her, but Brittany stepped away. Did you know? She asked our parents. Did you know he was using me? They didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. I pointed at the laptop. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to press publish on this post. It will go live on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter simultaneously. I have enough followers and connections that it will spread fast. By tomorrow morning, everyone you know will have read it. Your reputations will be destroyed. Dad, your boss will know you've been stealing from your daughter. Mom, your book club friends will know you're not the perfect mother you pretend to be. Brittany, your wedding guests will know the wedding is funded by fraud and manipulation, and Derek's parents will know exactly who their son is marrying and why. My finger hovered over the trackpad, right above the post button. Wait. My mother screamed. Wait, please. We'll make this right. We'll pay you back everything. We'll get jobs. We'll work extra hours. We'll do whatever it takes. Just don't do this. How? I asked simply. How will you pay me back? You have no savings. Your credit cards are maxed. You're living in my house rent-free. Dad, you're 2 years from retirement with almost nothing in your 401k. Mom, you haven't worked in 15 years. Where exactly is this money going to come from? Well, figure it out, my father said desperately. Well, sell things. Well, downsize. Well, ask for help from your aunt. Aunt Caroline, I asked. The one you've been telling everyone is mentally unstable? The one you cut out of all family events 3 years ago. More silence. Why did you really cut Caroline out? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No, I won't calm down. My wedding is ruined. Derek is a liar and a fraud. Everyone is going to know. Do you know how humiliating this is? Do you know how many people I invited? How many people I bragged to about my perfect wedding and my perfect fiancé? We were trying to help you, my mother said weakly. Help me? Help me. You were trying to use Vicky to pay for something you couldn't afford. You were living beyond your means and expecting her to bail you out. Again. How many times, Mom? How many times has she saved you? My mother couldn't answer. My father had his head in his hands. Brittany turned to me, and for the first time in maybe our entire relationship, I saw something real in her eyes. Not anger, not manipulation, but genuine remorse. I knew, she said quietly. I knew about the house. The room went still. What? I asked. I knew the house was supposed to be yours. Grandma told me before she died. She told me she was leaving it to you in the will. She said you deserved it, that you'd worked so hard and never asked for anything. She said Mom and Dad didn't deserve anything from her because of how they'd treated you. My hands were shaking. You knew. I knew. And when Mom and Dad told you they owned the house and were selling it to you, I said nothing. I thought maybe someday it would be mine, that you'd leave it to me or something. I didn't think about what it meant. I didn't think about them stealing from you. I just thought about myself. The betrayal cut deeper than anything else had all night. My baby sister, who I'd protected and loved despite everything, had known the truth and said nothing while I handed over $200,000 for a house that was already mine. Before I could respond, my phone rang. The caller ID said Caroline Richmond. My Aunt Caroline. I hadn't spoken to her in 3 years, not since my parents had convinced me she was unstable and I should keep my distance. I answered. Hello, Vicky? Oh, thank God. I heard about the dinner tonight. How did you hear about it? Small town, honey. Nancy from the church called me. She said there was quite a scene at your parents' house and she was worried about you. I'm coming over right now. I'm 5 minutes away. Don't let them bully you. She hung up before I could respond. My parents looked panicked. You can't let Caroline come here, my mother said. She'll just make things worse. She's always been dramatic and unstable. Is she? I asked. Or is that just what you told me to keep me away from her? 4 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Aunt Caroline standing there, looking exactly as I remembered her. Tall, with silver-streaked hair and my grandmother's sharp eyes. She was 63 years old and looked like she could take on the world. She hugged me tight. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have reached out sooner. I let them convince me to stay away, and that was wrong. She walked into the dining room like she owned the place. Hello, Margaret. Hello, Tom. Brittany. Her tone was cold enough to freeze water. Caroline, this is a family matter, my father started. I am family. More family than you've been to this girl, apparently. She set a large envelope on the table. Before your mother died, she gave me something. She made me promise to give it to Vicky if certain conditions were met. I think those conditions have been met. She pulled out a letter, handwritten on my grandmother's stationery. Your grandmother wrote this 2 months before she died. She was very clear about when I should give it to you. She said if your parents ever tried to take the house from you, or if they stole the money she left you, or if they pushed you too far, I was to give you this letter and tell you the truth. My hands were shaking as I took the letter. I recognized my grandmother's handwriting immediately. I started to read aloud. My dearest Vicky, if you're reading this, then things have gone the way I feared they would. Your parents have likely stolen from you, manipulated you, or pushed you past your breaking point. I want you to know that I saw it all. I saw how they treated you differently than Brittany. I saw how they took advantage of your kindness and your strength. I saw how they made you feel like you were never enough, while making Brittany feel like she deserved everything without working for it. I had to pause, my vision blurring with tears. Aunt Caroline put a hand on my shoulder. I continued, I changed my will 7 times in the last 5 years of my life. Each time, I left your parents less and less. In the final version, I left them nothing. Not a dollar, not an object, nothing. Everything went to you and Caroline. I left you the house, though I knew they'd try to trick you. I left you money, though I knew they'd try to steal it. I did this because you earned it, not through some obligation of blood, but through your character, your resilience, and your heart. My mother was crying openly now. My father's face was buried in his hands. I'm sorry I can't be there to protect you, I read. But I hope this letter helps you see the truth. You don't owe them anything. You never did. Love is not debt. Family is not obligation. You are free, my darling girl. You are free. I set the letter down, unable to continue. Aunt Caroline picked it up and kept reading. I've instructed Caroline to give you all the documentation you need. The house on Maple Street, the one your parents are living in, was mine. I left it to you in the will. Your parents were supposed to tell you this. Instead, they told you they owned it and convinced you to buy it from them for $200,000. That money should have gone to you as part of your inheritance. They stole from you twice, Vicky. Once the inheritance itself, and once by making you pay for something that was already yours. Aunt Caroline pulled out a folder from her envelope. Here's the deed showing your grandmother owned the house. Here is the will showing she left it to you. Here is documentation showing your parents never owned it. They lived there because your grandmother let them, but it was always meant to be yours. I felt like the room was spinning. $200,000. It'd given them $200,000 for a house that was already mine by law. The fraud was so massive, so complete, that I couldn't even process it. My father finally looked up. We were going to lose everything. The bank was going to foreclose. We didn't have a choice. You had a choice, Aunt Caroline said coldly. You could have told her the truth. You could have asked for help honestly instead of committing fraud. We're her parents, my mother sobbed. She's supposed to take care of us? No, Aunt Caroline said firmly. Parents are supposed to take care of their children, not the other way around. You had one job, and you failed at it, spectacularly. She turned to me. Vicky, honey, I brought someone with me. Hes, waiting outside. Can I bring him in? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Aunt Caroline went to the door and returned with a young man in his early 30s, wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase. This is Aaron Mitchell, Hes a lawyer who specializes in family financial crimes. Has been reviewing your case pro bono as a favor to me. Aaron shook my hand. Miss Richmond, I've reviewed all the documentation your aunt provided, as well as the materials you sent her last week. You have grounds for multiple lawsuits. Theft, fraud, forgery, and elder abuse for what they did regarding your grandmother's estate. The monetary damages alone are substantial, but there's also emotional distress, punitive damages, and potential criminal charges. My parents looked terrified. Brittany had gone completely silent. What are my options? I asked. Several. You can pursue criminal charges, which could result in jail time for your parents. You can pursue civil litigation, which would likely result in judgments you could collect against any assets they have or will have in the future. Or, you can negotiate a settlement that includes restitution and behavioral changes. I looked at my family. My mother, who had always made me feel like I wasn't enough. My father, who had taught me that my value was in what I could provide. My sister, who had known the truth and said nothing. They had stolen from me. They had lied to me. They had manipulated and used me for years. And part of me wanted to see them punished for it. Wanted to see them face consequences for once in their lives. But another part of me just wanted peace, wanted freedom, wanted to finally close this chapter and move on. Before I could make a decision, we heard stumbling on the front porch. The door burst open, and Derek was back. drunker than before and angrier. "Babe!" he shouted into the house. "Babe, where are you? We need to talk about what you said on the phone." He stumbled into the dining room and stopped when he saw all of us. His eyes were unfocused, his clothes disheveled. "Oh, it's a party. Great. Perfect. Derek, leave," Brittany said, her voice small. "Please just leave. Leave. We're supposed to get married. We're supposed to have a life together. But then you call me asking all these crazy questions about my parents and money and my past." He was getting louder, more aggressive. "You've been talking to her, haven't you?" He pointed at me. "She's been filling your head with lies." "They're not lies," Brittany said quietly. "Are they? What?" "Of course they're lies. Your sister is just jealous. She's jealous that you're happy and getting married and she's all alone." He turned to me. "You know what your problem is? You think you're better than everyone because you have money. But money doesn't buy happiness. Money doesn't buy love." "No," I agreed. "But apparently love doesn't buy anything, because you've been mooching off Brittany and expecting my money to fund your lifestyle." His face contorted with rage. "You stuck-up witch! You think you can just ruin people's lives with your accusations? I love Brittany. I want to marry her. You want to marry her family's money," I corrected. "Except here's the problem. Her family doesn't have money. They're broke, deeply in debt, living in a house they don't own, asking the daughter they've been exploiting to fund a wedding they can't afford." Derek's face changed as he processed this information. The anger drained away, replaced by a calculating look that was somehow worse. "They're broke, completely," I confirmed. He looked at Brittany. "Is this true?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "So there's no money? No house? No family wealth?" "No," Brittany whispered. Derek laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. "Wow, that's just perfect. I've wasted 10 months on you. 10 months I could have spent finding someone actually worth marrying." "Derek," my mother gasped. "What? You people have been lying to me from day one. You told me you were a good family, stable, had money. You showed me pictures of this house like you owned it. You talked about family investments and security. You said Vicky was successful and generous and would help us get started in life. You made it sound like marrying into this family was a good deal." "A good deal," Brittany repeated, her voice breaking. "That's what I am to you? A deal?" "Well, yeah. I mean, obviously." "Did you really think I loved you?" He laughed again. "Babe, you're fine and all, but I'm 32. I don't have time for love. I need security. I need someone who can help me get my life together. My parents are threatening to cut me off completely if I don't show them I'm serious about my future. A nice wife from a good family, that was supposed to be my ticket back into their good graces. But a broke wife from a fraud family? That's worse than nothing." The silence that followed was absolute. Even drunk, even cruel, even Derek seemed to realize he'd gone too far. But he didn't apologize. Instead, he held out his hand. "Give me the ring back." Brittany looked down at her engagement ring. It was a modest stone, nothing extravagant, but she'd been so proud of it. With shaking hands, she pulled it off and handed it to him. "Thanks. I can probably get a few hundred for this." He pocketed the ring and turned to leave, then stopped at the doorway. "For what it's worth, your sister was right about everything. I did have other engagements. I do have gambling debts. I was going to use your family's money to pay them off. But hey, at least now you know. Consider it a favor." He left. We heard his car start, heard the tires squeal as he drove away too fast. Brittany collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. My mother went to comfort her, but Brittany pushed her away. "Don't touch me. This is your fault. You set me up with a man you didn't vet, promised him things we didn't have, and pushed for a wedding we couldn't afford. You ruined my life. Brittany, please," my mother begged. "No, I'm done. I'm done with all of this." She looked at me through her tears. "You were right. About everything. About Derek. About them. About me. I'm a spoiled, entitled brat who's never had to work for anything, and now look at me. 25 years old, no real job skills, no husband, no future, living with my parents in a house they don't even own. It was the most self-aware I'd ever seen my sister. It didn't erase years of hurt, but it was something." Aaron cleared his throat gently. "Miss, Richmond, I know this is a difficult time, but we need to make some decisions. Do you want to press charges? I looked at my family, really looked at them. My parents, old and scared and finally facing consequences. My sister, broken and lost and maybe, just maybe, on the verge of real growth. They had hurt me deeply. They had stolen from me, lied to me, used me. But they were still human, still people who had made terrible choices and would have to live with them. No, I said finally. No criminal charges. But I do have conditions. My father looked up. Anything. Well, do anything. First, you leave this house tonight. Not in 24 hours. Tonight, within the next 2 hours. Take what you need and go. I don't care where. Hotel, friend's place, wherever. But you're not staying here. They nodded frantically. Second, you sign over any remaining claim to any assets of mine or Grandma's estate. Aaron will draw up the papers, and you'll sign them tonight. Yes, of course, my mother said. Third, you both enter financial counseling. Real counseling, with a certified financial advisor. You'll show me proof of attendance every month for the next year. We will, my father promised. Fourth, you all enter family therapy, together, once a week, for as long as the therapist thinks it's necessary. I'll pay for it, but you have to actually participate and do the work. Brittany nodded through her tears. Fifth, Brittany, you cancel the wedding. You tell everyone the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough. You tell them it's canceled because you and Derek are not compatible and the timing wasn't right. You apologize to the guests for any inconvenience. You return any gifts already received. You handle it like an adult. I will, she whispered. Sixth, Mom and Dad, you write formal apologies. Not just to me, but to Aunt Caroline, to the estate lawyer, to everyone you've lied to about Caroline being unstable. You'll read these apologies at a family meeting with all our relatives present. You'll tell them the truth about your finances, about the house, about everything. No more pretending to be something you're not. My mother was crying again, but she nodded. And seventh, most importantly, you stay out of my life unless I invite you back in. You don't call me. You don't text me. You don't show up at my work or my apartment. You don't ask me for money, advice, or favors. If I decide I want a relationship with you in the future, I'll reach out. But that's my choice, not yours. Is that clear? They all nodded. Aaron pulled out papers from his briefcase. I took the liberty of drafting some of these agreements already. If everyone's in agreement, we can sign tonight. For the next hour, we went through paperwork. My parents signed over any claims to the house, to Grandma's estate, to anything with my name on it. They signed agreements to attend counseling and therapy. Brittany signed a statement acknowledging her role in the deception about the house. It was all very formal, very legal, very final. When it was done, Aunt Caroline helped them pack some essentials. My father called a hotel and booked 2 rooms, one for him and my mother, one for Brittany. They'd deal with the rest of their belongings later. As they were leaving, Brittany stopped in front of me. I'm sorry, she said, and for the first time in our lives, I believed she meant it. I'm really, truly sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know. I nodded. I didn't have words yet. Maybe someday I would. My parents stopped at the door too. We love you, my mother said. I know you think you do, I replied. But love is more than words. Love is action. Love is respect. Love is boundaries. Maybe someday you'll understand that. They left. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. Aunt Caroline put her arm around me. You did the right thing. Did I? I asked. I just made my entire family homeless. No, honey. They made themselves homeless through years of bad choices. You just stopped enabling those choices. There's a difference. Aaron packed up his briefcase. Miss Richmond, you have my card. If they violate any of these agreements, call me immediately. And please, take care of yourself. What you did tonight took immense courage. After he left, Aunt Caroline made tea, and we sat in the living room of my house, my grandmother's house, the house that was always meant to be mine. Why didn't you reach out sooner? I asked her. Why did you let them keep me away from you? She sighed. Because I'm a coward. Your parents told everyone I was mentally unstable after I called them out for how they treated you. They said I was jealous, bitter, delusional. Some people believed them. I was afraid that if I reached out to you, they'd turn you against me completely. I should have been braver. I should have fought harder for you. I'm sorry, don't be, I said. You're here now. That's what matters. We talked until late into the night. She told me stories about my grandmother, about the woman she was before age and illness changed her. She told me about the family history I'd never known, about generational patterns of dysfunction that my parents had continued. She told me about her own life, her career as a lawyer, her retirement, her travels. She filled in gaps I didn't even know existed. When she finally left, promising to call me the next day, I walked through the house alone. My house, my space, my sanctuary. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. 3 months have passed since that dinner. 3 months that changed everything. My parents moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It's modest, affordable, within their means. My father had to have some difficult conversations with his boss about his financial situation. Instead of judging him, his boss actually helped him create a realistic budget and connected him with the company's employee assistance program. Hez working with a financial counselor now, learning things he should have learned decades ago. Hez facing his problems instead of running from them or expecting someone else to solve them. My mother joined a support group for people with spending problems. She had to admit to her book club friends that her perfect family image was a facade. She lost some of those friends, but the real ones stuck around. She got a part-time job at a local library. It doesn't pay much, but she's working for the first time in 15 years, and I think it's good for her. She's learning her own value beyond being someone's wife or mother. They're both in therapy, individually and together. I get monthly reports from their therapist with their permission, just to verify they're actually going and doing the work. The reports are encouraging. They're starting to understand the damage they did. They're starting to take real accountability instead of just offering empty apologies. Brittany had the hardest road. She had to cancel the wedding, return deposits shed already spent, and face 200 disappointed guests. She lost friends. People talked. Her social media was brutal for a while. But she handled it with more grace than I expected. She wrote personal apologies to the people closest to her. She admitted she'd made mistakes. She grew up, basically. She moved into a small apartment with 2 roommates she found on an online listing. She got a job as a teacher's aide at an elementary school. It's entry level. The pay isn't great, but she's actually good at it. She likes working with kids. She's talking about going back to school to get her teaching certification. For the first time in her life, she has goals that are about her own growth, not about finding someone to take care of her. 6 weeks after that dinner, I got a letter from her. Handwritten, 8 pages long. She didn't make excuses. She didn't blame anyone else. She took full responsibility for her actions, for knowing about the house and saying nothing, for being complicit in my exploitation. She said she understood if I never wanted to see her again, but that she was committed to becoming a better person whether I forgave her or not. I wrote back, not forgiving, not yet, but acknowledging. We've met for coffee twice since then. The conversations are awkward and painful, but they're real. We're building something new, something based on honesty instead of dysfunction. I don't know if we'll ever be close, but we might become people who can exist in the same room without damage. Derek's gambling debts caught up with him about a month ago. His parents finally found out everything and cut him off completely. Last I heard, he moved back to his hometown and is living in his childhood bedroom, working at a gas station. Brittany dodged a bullet the size of a freight train. The family meeting that I mandated happened 4 weeks after the dinner. Aunt Caroline hosted it at her house. All the relatives came, curious about why they'd been summoned. My parents read their apologies. They admitted to the financial fraud, the manipulation, the lies about Caroline being unstable. They admitted they'd created a facade of success while drowning in debt. They admitted they'd stolen from me and exploited me for years. The reactions were mixed. Some relatives were shocked. Some had suspected but hadn't said anything. Uncle Frank, my dad's brother, actually apologized to me. He said Head noticed years ago that I was treated differently than Brittany, but Head thought it wasn't his place to interfere. Aunt Marie, my mom's sister, cried and hugged me. Shed tried to talk to my parents about their treatment of me once, and they'd cut her off for 2 years. The family is fractured now, but maybe that's not a bad thing. The toxic dynamics are exposed. People are having real conversations instead of maintaining comfortable lies. It's messy and uncomfortable, but it's honest. I kept the house. I turned the basement into a beautiful rental unit with its own entrance, bathroom, and kitchenette. I'm renting it to a graduate student for a fair price, and the income covers most of my mortgage payment. The rest of the house is mine, decorated the way I want it, filled with things I love instead of things that remind me of obligation. I took $10,000 of the money I recovered from my parents through the legal settlement and donated it to a nonprofit called Break Free Financial. They help young adults who are being financially exploited by family members. They provide legal resources, counseling, and support groups. The director called me personally to thank me and asked if I'd be willing to speak at one of their events. I'm thinking about it. I'm in therapy too, once a week, every week, working through 28 years of dysfunction and manipulation. My therapist says I show signs of complex trauma from emotional abuse. She says the financial exploitation was a form of control, a way my parents kept me tied to them. She says I did the right thing by setting boundaries. Some days I believe her. Some days I feel guilty for making my family homeless, even though I know intellectually that I didn't make them homeless. They made themselves homeless through their choices. Aunt Caroline and I have dinner every Sunday now. She's teaching me family recipes that my grandmother used to make. She's filling in my family history with truth instead of the sanitized version my parents told. She's become the family I needed, the support I never had. We're planning a trip together next summer, just the two of us, to visit my grandmother's hometown in Vermont. I paid off the last of my student loans last month. $60,000, gone. It took me 6 years, but I'm finally free of that debt. I'm building my savings again. I'm investing in my retirement. I'm planning for a future that's mine, not one dictated by other people's crises and demands. Work is going well. I got promoted to senior engineer 2 months ago. My boss told me I seem different lately, more confident, more assertive. She said she's noticed I don't apologize as much anymore when I haven't done anything wrong. She's right. I'm learning to take up space without feeling guilty about it. I'm dating someone. His name is Marcus, and he's an accountant I met at a coffee shop. When I told him about my family situation on our 3rd date, expecting judgment or pity, he just nodded and said, "Boundaries are healthy. Good for you." We've been seeing each other for 6 weeks now. It's early, but it's nice. Hez kind and stable, and he pays for his own meals without expecting me to cover him. The bar is apparently very low, but I'm okay with that right now. I read my grandmother's letter sometimes, especially on hard days when I wonder if I did the right thing. She ends it with something I try to remember. You are not responsible for fixing people who don't want to be fixed. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions and demands. You deserve peace. I'm learning what peace feels like. It's not constant joy or happiness. It's not the absence of pain. It's the freedom to make choices that honor yourself instead of sacrificing yourself. It's the ability to say no without drowning in guilt. It's knowing your worth isn't determined by how much you give or what you can provide. I'm also learning that breaking generational cycles is hard and painful and lonely sometimes. My parents came from families where love was conditional and money was power. They learned those patterns and passed them on. I'm choosing to end that cycle. If I ever have children, they'll know that love is free. They'll know that family is about support and respect, not exploitation and obligation. They'll know that their worth is inherent, not earned through service. The biggest lesson I've learned through all of this is that family is not just about blood. Biology doesn't create obligation. Real family is the people who show up with integrity, who respect your boundaries, who love you without asking you to shrink yourself. Real family doesn't steal from you, lie to you, or manipulate you. Real family celebrates your success instead of resenting it. Real family builds you up instead of tearing you down. I'm building that kind of family now. Aunt Caroline is part of it. Marcus might become part of it. My coworkers who checked on me during the worst of it are part of it. My therapist, in a way, is part of it. Family is something you create, not just something you're born into. I also learned that protecting yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not cruel. Saying no is not a betrayal. For so long, I believed that being a good daughter, a good sister, a good family member meant sacrificing endlessly. It meant putting everyone else first. Always. It meant my needs didn't matter as much as theirs. That was a lie. A lie I was taught young and believed for too long. The truth is that you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help people who won't help themselves. And you can't love people into changing if they don't want to change. Sometimes the bravest, most loving thing you can do is walk away. Or in my case, make them walk away. It's been 3 months, and I haven't heard from my parents directly. They're honoring the boundary I set. Brittany texts me occasionally. Nothing heavy, just checking in. Hope you're doing well. Thought of you when I saw this meme. Small connections that feel manageable. I don't know what the future holds for our relationships. Maybe someday we'll rebuild something healthy. Maybe we won't. I'm learning to be okay with either outcome. I'm learning that I can't control other people's choices or growth, only my own. What I do know is that I'm free. Really, truly free for the first time in my life. Free from the weight of their expectations. Free from the fear of their disappointment. Free from the cycle of crisis and rescue. Free to build a life that's actually mine. I'm sitting in my grandmother's favorite chair as I think about all this. It's in the corner of the living room, near the window that overlooks the garden. I've planted new flowers there, bright perennials that will come back year after year. I'm reading her letter again, the one that changed everything. There's a knock at the door. It's Aunt Caroline, right on time for Sunday dinner. We're making lasagna tonight, my grandmother's recipe. The house smells like garlic and basil and possibility. As I get up to answer the door, I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror. I look different than I did 3 months ago. Lighter somehow. The weight I'd been carrying for so long is gone. I'm not perfect. I still have hard days. I still feel guilty sometimes. I still wonder if I did the right thing, but I'm free, and that makes all the difference. To anyone listening to this story who sees themselves in it, who feels trapped by family obligation and manipulation, who is being exploited in the name of love, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You are not responsible for fixing broken people. You are not obligated to fund other people's choices. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. Love should not cost you your peace. Family should not require your destruction. Relationships built on exploitation are not relationships worth having. It will be hard. People will judge you. Some will call you selfish or cruel. But the people who matter, the people who truly love you, will understand. And you'll find new family among people who respect you. You are worth more than what you can provide. Your value is inherent. You deserve love without conditions. You deserve peace without guilt. And you deserve to be free. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who were taking advantage of you? How did you handle it? And what did you learn from the experience? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about finding strength in difficult situations. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's struggling with family dynamics or learning to set boundaries. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them most. Thank you so much for listening, and remember that choosing yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next story.